Welcome back to High Courts, where we dive into the wildest, funniest, and most jaw-dropping stories the internet has to offer. Today, we're taking a trip down the chaotic rabbit hole of Reddit, where drama knows no bounds and the audacity levels are sky-high. First, let's start with this case. Our 6-year-old child has a favorite cereal, a branded chocolate hoop cereal, which is usually far too expensive for our budget. We almost never buy it and typically get her the store-brand alternative, which she likes but doesn't enjoy as much. However, a few weeks ago, I was delighted to find 2 boxes of her preferred brand marked down to a price even cheaper than the store-brand version. Naturally, I bought them and she was thrilled. We've been rationing the cereal to make it last longer, as I limit her intake of sugary cereals. Usually, she has a base of plain cereal like bran flakes or wheat biscuits, with a sprinkle of the chocolate cereal on top. She's happy with this arrangement since it stretches the treat. A couple of days ago, we opened the second box. This morning, my husband joined us for breakfast, which is unusual since he typically eats earlier. To my shock, he poured himself an enormous bowl of the chocolate cereal. Surprised, I asked him why he was eating so much of it, especially since it's our daughter's favorite treat. He replied casually that it was a normal amount for him. He had run out of his usual cereal, and it wasn't a big deal. He also revealed that he had done the same thing the previous day. Upon checking, I estimated he had consumed about 1/3 of the entire box in just 2 servings. I got upset and told him that this was unreasonable and a bit selfish. While I understand he has every right to eat whatever food is in the house, I felt that taking a large portion of an expensive cereal bought as a rare treat for our daughter was inconsiderate. I suggested he could have mixed it with a cheaper cereal to make it go further. He dismissed my concern, pointing out that the cereal had been on sale and wasn't expensive at the time. When I explained that replacing it would cost more, he shrugged and said we just wouldn't buy it again. Our daughter got upset during this exchange, and my husband blamed me for making a scene in front of her. He said I had caused her distress and then ruined his day. He finished his large bowl of cereal and stormed off to our bedroom in frustration. He also argued that because he earns most of the household income, he should be able to eat whatever he wants. While it's true that he earns more, we have an agreed-upon food budget. If he wants to use his personal money for expensive treats, that's fine. But this cereal came out of the family budget, which is already tight. For context, we spend about £40–50, $50–65 weekly on groceries for the 3 of us, so every purchase is carefully planned. To clarify, my husband was fully aware that this cereal is our daughter's favorite and was purchased specifically as a treat for her. While it wasn't part of any formal reward system, it was clearly intended for her enjoyment. The box contains about 14 servings, and because she rations it, it usually lasts her 3 to 4 weeks. Am I wrong for calling him out on this? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong, but his "I earn more" and the implied "so F you and my daughter" sure makes him an idiot in my book. When money is tight or just needs to be budgeted, good parents often make do less to ensure their growing kids' needs and occasional wants are met. Many people can tell you as they got older, they realized their parents had been letting their kids eat most of the meatballs and drink the milk while they lived off the pasta and plain water. In my honest opinion, your husband should be ashamed of himself. You're not in the wrong. Yeah, it's incredibly selfish behavior. I seriously don't get why he didn't think about his kid first. A lot of husbands seem to have this problem. It's like they think it's every man for themselves, because it's only mom's job to put their kid first. You're not in the wrong. My dad did that all the time. We were on a tight budget and often only ate bread and butter or bread and marmalade, without butter or margarine. He would eat meat spreads and eggs in front of us and even tease us with it. He was the breadwinner, so my mom was worth nothing. He has not changed his view. It is one of the core memories of my childhood. I still resent my dad for it, among other things. But the food stuff was pretty bad. You're not in the wrong. In this situation, hubby was gaslighting you. He took something that was a treat for your kid that he isn't willing to replace, and then blamed you for it. Hubby sounds immature and inconsiderate, needs to grow up and think of his actions. What he does, his daughter will learn from. Daughter's view will be that she is very restricted on treats, but has to sit back while a grown man eats 1/3 of the box in one go right in front of her. If that type of thing happens normally in your household, it will teach your daughter to expect this behavior from men towards mothers and children. Next up, my parents recently visited my husband and me at our mid-sized home. While they're wonderful most of the time, my mother has a tendency to be overly critical. She always seems to find something minor to nitpick, perhaps as a way to assert her sense of superiority. My husband has a unique habit of relaxing on the stairs. Sometimes he's on the landing, other times at the top or bottom. He might sit, lie down, or even drape himself in unusual positions. It's harmless and just his way of unwinding, which I find endearing. However, my mother was not impressed. She kept throwing disapproving glances his way until she finally commented, "Why is he sitting there? He's not a child. He should sit in the living room like an adult." I calmly replied, "It's our house. He can sit however and wherever he wants." That response seemed to irritate her, and she began criticizing his behavior, calling it weird, improper, and embarrassing. I stood my ground, refusing to tell my husband where he could or couldn't relax in his own home. The disagreement escalated, and my mother stormed out, declaring she wouldn't be a part of this nonsense. She left in a huff, took the car, and checked into a hotel in town, leaving my dad behind. The irony is that my husband wasn't disrupting her in any way. She had no reason to go upstairs, as the only things there are my husband's office, our bedroom, and a small half-bathroom, a bathroom with just a sink and toilet. At the time, he was simply sitting on the stairs using his phone. Sometimes he reads books there too, but not that weekend. After she left, my dad and I spent a lovely evening catching up. He wasn't bothered by my husband's stare habit and even found the situation amusing. Still, I'm now questioning if I was too harsh with my mom. While I know she can be overly dramatic, perhaps I could have handled things more diplomatically. That said, it's our home, and my husband is part of my family. He should be able to relax however he likes, even if it's unconventional. Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. The only thing I can conclude from your story is that your mom really does find things to pick at so that she can obtain compliance and master the situation. So she found a thing to pick at, and she tried, and she failed, and it was a big shock, very uncomfortable, so she freaked out. It's 100% her fault. I would go forward as if nothing happened and let her bring it up if she must. Otherwise, just ignore. As if she was a kid who had some strange tantrum and now it's done. You're not in the wrong. I think you handled it perfectly. And I think this needs to happen more often. Every time she picks at something kicking up a stink, the response should be a calm, "This is how we do things," and let her leave. Don't chase after her, just carry on enjoying whatever is going on. Then when she comes back, don't make a big deal of it. Like nothing happened, no acknowledgement of her return, and definitely no apologies. A narcissist doesn't like not being the center of everything, so if you stop buying into her drama, maybe she'll learn to behave, and if not, you get a few hours of peace while she sulks. You're not in the wrong. It's super normal for kids of parents who do things like this to feel the need to smooth things over. Anxiety response, fight, flight, freeze, also fawn. Fawn, make things better, resolve the conflict, manage the parent's emotions. You aren't and never were responsible for the emotions of your parent. Her emotions are 100% hers to feel and to manage. She overreacted. Next up, as background, my parents have been divorced for over 10 years. I'm a 21-year-old man, and I have 2 siblings, my 24-year-old sister and my 19-year-old brother. We first met our father's new girlfriend about 4 years ago. From the start, our father's girlfriend, soon-to-be stepmother, has made it clear she doesn't like us, and the feeling is mutual. While her dislike has always been subtle, we've noticed her attitude, and we've tried telling our father about it. However, he's the quiet type and refuses to get involved, insisting that we should learn from her. A year ago, I moved out and now live on my own. Recently, I found out that my father and his girlfriend are planning to get married. This was her idea, and despite our family not being financially well off, she insists on having an extravagant celebration. Here's where the conflict begins. She expects financial contributions from all of us children for the wedding, claiming it's our responsibility as part of the family. My sister, who has a kind and generous nature, voluntarily offered to help. However, my brother and I were both irritated by her demand. When I refused to contribute and suggested that she scale down the celebration to fit their budget, she became furious, leading to a heated argument. Afterward, we didn't speak for several days. Then, to my shock, I discovered that money had been taken from my bank account. It turned out that my stepmother had accessed the account through my father, who had permission to use it. She took the money without asking and refused to return it when confronted. Although the amount wasn't large, I was furious and told her I would report her to the authorities for theft if she didn't return it. Unfortunately, many of our relatives sided with her, accusing me of trying to ruin the wedding. They kept saying things like, "Family is more important than money," and told me not to make a big deal out of it. Despite the pressure, I stood my ground, waiting to see if she would return the money. After I threatened to involve the police, she eventually gave the money back. However, I still reported her for theft. Since this was her first recorded offense, she won't face jail time, but she is being fined a significant amount. I hope this serves as a lesson, and I'm grateful for everyone who supported me. Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. Call your bank immediately and have your father removed from your account and tell them what happened. Whether or not you take legal action, you absolutely need to change all of your passwords and account access on literally anything you have. If you ever logged into an account of any kind at your dad's house, you need to change those passwords. Tell your dad that you are officially removing him from anything he has access to that is yours. As his fiancé has crossed boundaries you're not willing to compromise on. Don't cave on this. She is helping herself to your money, and it definitely won't be the last time. They're not even married yet, and she's expecting you to pay her way. The fact that she thinks a 19-year-old and 21-year-old have money to spare is unhinged. You're not in the wrong. People are seriously telling you that family is more important than money, in defense of a woman who stole money from family. The cognitive dissonance is strong there. You're not in the wrong. Report the theft to the police and to the bank. She has absolutely no right to steal money from your bank account. If she gets away with it, she'll likely clean out the rest of your account. Make sure you transfer your money to a different account, possibly at a different bank. And don't let anyone else know the account number or password. How on earth did this overly entitled idiot get your bank account number, etc.? From your father? If so, he's even a bigger idiot. And if he marries the thief, she may end up taking every penny he has. Next up, my ex-husband, a 44-year-old male, cheated on me, a 39-year-old female, throughout our marriage. But I only learned the truth when he made one of his affair partners pregnant about 8 years ago. At the time, our kids were 10 and 12 years old. He ended up marrying the mother of his other child, and they went on to have 2 more kids. Our kids didn't see much of him, and when they reached the age to voice their own wishes, 16, they chose to end all contact with their father. My ex and the mother of his other children ended up becoming addicted to drugs, and more recently there was a situation, of which I'm not sure about all the details. And the 3 children they shared were removed from their care. I was approached by their caseworker to find out if I would be willing to take in the children as the mother to their older half-siblings. I said no. My children were asked if they would like to have a relationship with the children, and they said no. My ex-in-laws asked me to reconsider because they wanted my kids to know their half-siblings, and mostly wanted the half-siblings to always know my kids always. They told me my kids would easily avoid their house, but they would never avoid me, and exposure to the half-siblings could only be a good thing for my children. I told them I was not the person to raise those children, and if they didn't, for whatever reason, they would have a better chance of being wanted and cared for in foster care, because I never would. Ex-in-laws took their grandchildren in, but like they said, my kids simply don't visit or allow visits with them now. They were never very involved when my kids were young and only formed a better relationship when my kids got older. But my kids do not want a relationship with the other children. My ex-in-laws are blaming me for this and claiming I forced them to take them in instead of providing the children with a home where they would have a parent, me, and siblings, my kids. Am I in the wrong? Let's start judging. While this is an unfortunate circumstance, you have no responsibility to these children whatsoever, only to your children. If your children also truly do not want them in your house, you would be going against your children's wishes, which as a parent, if you disregarded that, which you didn't, and that is an idiot thing. You are correct in stating that they would be better off in foster care as compared to you looking after them, as you truly do not feel any responsibility. While they did not choose to be taken out of their home, you did not choose for these children to be conceived by your ex-husband and played no part in that happening. You're not in the wrong. You're not in the wrong. Who in their right mind would expect the cheated spouse to take care of the other children? Of course, it is easier to guilt-trip someone instead of raising your own grandchildren. You're not in the wrong. What the actual hell? The fact you have kids from that person doesn't mean you now need to take care of his other kids. That is true even if he was never an idiot that cheated you and left you to marry another and parent those kids while you stayed alone with his older kids. Once you and your kids decided to cut any connection to your ex-husband, the story was over. I feel sorry for those kids, but honestly, you made the right choice. Having any relation with that broken home is a mistake. The grandparents are the only one who should take the kids unless they have real uncles, aunts who are willing to.